You're listening to the Live Out Loud podcast with River Wynn and Michele Flamer.
Oh, River.
Michele.
What's up, hot stuff?
Well, I've got my Starbucks and I've got a croissant and I'm here with you. And we have an amazing guest to be on the podcast today that I'm so excited about. My lovely friend, Angie Brown Harris.
Hi. We're excited.
Yes,
how
we
long
are.
have you known Angie?
Oh gosh. I mean, her younger sister and I have been best friends since we were probably about 13, 14. So, I mean, I've known Angie. I mean, I didn't know you super well back then, Angie, but
yeah, I knew of you.
Yeah,
more
like
than I knew you.
Yeah, like we've been in proximity for what, like 18
Ever.
years now, something like that.
Yeah,
too long to count.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I want to have you introduce yourself in your own words so you can kind of tell us about yourself and your backstory and who you are and what you do.
Who I am and what I do. My name is Angie Brown Harris. As you already said, for a career, right? Like that's always where we start. I am my career. I am not. But what I have done for work for the vast majority of my life is massage therapy. I've been a massage therapist for 22 years. At the age of 37, which I think we're going to dive into, I made a shift and changed a lot of things in my life. And one of them was a career change. I haven't ever stopped doing massage, but I definitely lessened that significantly. And I am now a coach of women, of empowerment, and whether that be in nutrition or mindset, or really just harnessing who they were when they let the world tell them differently. In my sort of non-public professional life, I love to run anytime that I can be outside. I want to be. I have 2 kids, 15 and 20 years old. One is launched, one is in high school. That's the bullet points of me. When River said, "We want you to be on the podcast," I was like, oh my God, yes.
And you went through a divorce process and finding love after divorce. Yes.
And I have stepped into
There's hope, River. There's hope.
Let me just tell you how much hope there is.
Yeah.
If I can say one thing, just to start off, I have a lot of things. But there is hope, and that hope starts in standing in your power and understanding who you are. And when you know those things, what is meant for you comes to you, and the relationships that you get to have and build in that space are unbelievable. So there is hope. I assure you.
So I love that there's hope, but I want to hear how you got to that place where, before the hope.
Okay. So, it starts, the big kind of the shift started in January of 2016. I had been a runner and very active in my life since 2011. I started running in 2011, started to shift some things about myself and my health. And the relationship that I was in at that time sometimes was supportive of that and sometimes wasn't so supportive of that. And in January of 2016, kind of came to a crux where I felt like I needed to take my power back. I needed something for myself, and I hired a coach. The coach was in the nutrition capacity. I had been gaining and losing the same 20 pounds for 5 years.
Oh, it's just not me?
No, it's not just you. I can help you with that, by the way. I had been gaining and losing the same 20 pounds for a long time, and I wanted to understand nutrition on a different level. My friend Brittany had just opened a franchise of a company called the Diet Doc. And I had been hearing about this whole counting macros thing and flexible dieting, and you can eat Pop-Tarts and lose weight and like all this stuff. And I was like, all right, teach me. Like I need something. Yeah, right. I need something.
Pop-Tarts and losing weight. Hell yeah.
Boom. So she said to me at that time, because we were friends, she was aware of my relationship stuff, that this was either going to be the best time for me to do this, or this was going to be the worst time for me to do this. And in the 5-month program that I did with her, I lost 35 pounds and I learned so much about myself. By the end of that program, I was still finding myself wanting to be involved in the community she was building, in the other clients that she had, and being other people's cheerleader and telling them my experience and supporting them through what they were doing. And a couple of months later, she said to me, have you ever thought about doing this? And I was like, do what? I don't know what you're talking about. What do you want me to do? And she said, being a coach. I think that you would be really good at this. And I was like, I don't know. Let me think about it. And the more that I thought about it, the more that it just absolutely married everything that I love to do. I love to be in community with people. I love to empower people. I love to support them and help them understand the capabilities that they have lost in themselves somewhere along the way. Ironically,
can we
go for it.
Just to, and not to like interrupt fully, but can you go back to what you learned about yourself during that process?
Oh my.
Or even just a couple of moments of like clarity for yourself, because clarity seems to be popping up a lot for people lately.
Yeah, clarity. What I learned about myself is that the stories I had been telling myself were not the truth.
Like what?
Like that I needed to eat every single hour to keep from being hungry. Gotcha. Like I actually wasn't going to die if I waited 2 hours to eat. Right. Like, and I didn't have to do everything black and white. There was a lot of gray and a lot of flexibility to be had in my life. And I learned in that I was filling a lot of things with food that were gaps in my life. Like there was missing things in my life, nourishing things that I was then nourishing with food. So those were a couple of the things that were brought to light in that, and that making me happy was at the top of the list, that prioritizing everyone else in my life over myself wasn't actually getting me where I wanted to go.
So we just talked about that, right? Michele, we just talked about like how, as moms, it's so hard to take care of ourselves sometimes when you're so focused on making everyone else happy and taking care of everyone else. And it's such a huge moment when you realize that you've been doing that. And that when you pour into yourself, it pours back into everyone else around you. So it has the opposite effect of what you think it's going to do. We feel like it's so selfish to, take care of ourselves. But truly, that's the thing that we need the most and our families need the most.
Well, that's what I'm curious about. Like, how old were you when you had that little shift?
Me?
Yeah.
37.
And then were the kids at home? The boys, one of the boys, were they both under the same roof at that time?
My kids are both girls, but
oh, sorry, your girls.
Yes, yeah, they were 8 and 13 at the time. Yeah.
So if they were 13 when you went through that and you started to take care of yourself, what did you learn then? And how did your kids see you?
That they're watching. That's what I learned. They were watching. Now, right? Like they were 8 and 13 then, they're 15 and 20 now. My kids love to take care of themselves. They love to move their bodies. They love to eat well. They have learned that when they eat well, they feel well. They each have their own unique, obviously, like passions and capabilities, and nurture those things within themselves. My youngest daughter, she loves to pick up heavy shit. At 13 years old, she figured out that weightlifting was really, really fun. And feeling that power was really, really good. And imagine what we had felt if we knew that about ourselves at 13 years old.
Oh my God.
I actually could say I did, because I'm a lifelong athlete. I mean,
nice.
Athletics for me is therapy. I mean, I used to call my gym at home. I started having a gym at home in 2018, living in Oregon. just because of the rain and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to drive 40 minutes back and forth, all together
Mhm.
like, to go to the gym. And so I built up this gym for myself, and I called it the therapy room,
That's
because
awesome.
it's just that. But what I want to know is, I want to go beyond the kids and beyond the fitness part. I want to understand how it altered you within the family dynamic,
Mhm.
because you're about to get divorced at that point, right?
Yep.
So that's what I want to know. Like, where did it evolve through to get you, to like build that power up within you?
Yeah. So it came at a sort of culmination. I went to a 4-day personal development seminar called the Personal Effectiveness Seminar, PES, through a company called Wings at the time. And that 4 days, I'm in zero exaggeration, changed my life, like transformed my life, taught me to stand in my integrity. And what I knew was true for me didn't matter if anybody else understood it. I knew my truth and honored it and was going to walk in it. And doing that meant that I could no longer stay in the relationship that I was in because I couldn't stay in my integrity and do it. And that transition was hard. Of course, as I said to him, it is time for us to redefine our relationship from married couple to collaborative co-parents. I can say with
Damn, you
integrity,
handled some business.
I did. I can say with pride that 7 years later, we have done exactly that. It has been a challenge, but we are collaborative co-parents. And I just was no longer doing anything that I thought the world thought that I should, if it wasn't in alignment with what I knew was right and true for me. And that right and true for me is a feeling. It's a feeling inside of my gut. It's a feeling, like I can point to it right where it happens. And when I am not in alignment with that spot, I don't do those things. And so as the world was judging me, as rumors were being spread and things were being said, I knew my truth and I knew what was happening and I was walking in it. And part of that was shifting my career a bit and helping other women to do exactly those same things. Yes, River, I choose
So
you.
yeah,
What would
I mean,
you like
we
to
live
say?
we live in the same town, right? And so, having known you for so long, and for myself, having gone through the experience of like getting divorced in a small town and going through shifts in a big town, I'm just curious, having known you for so long, like what was that like for you going through all of that shift in a small town where people who've known you for so long tend to put you in a box of how they see you and how they expect you to be?
Yep.
What was your experience with that? Like, not only were things changing like internally in your family system, but like everything is changing in like relationships out in the community and how people see you. So how was that experience?
Typically things went one of two ways. People either stopped talking to me because they believed whatever other thing was happening or they felt like was happening, or they leaned into me and said, teach me. Like what is happening with you is what I need for myself. And it was isolating in a lot of ways. And you're just constantly seeking your truth and your integrity and walking within that. I lost a lot of friends. My social structure completely fractured. And yet, cliches are cliche because they're true, right? Like your true friends show themselves. The people that stay by your side are the people that are meant to. And I have some incredibly strong, deep friendships. There's just a handful of them, and still 7 years later, I'm still continually trying to rebuild that social structure. Adult friendship is hard. And
it is. I will say though, I love, having known you for so long, getting to see your transition, but then also now having an adult friendship with you.
Yeah.
And getting kind of like lean into you as well. You've been such an inspiration for me.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, like when your clients find you, are they at the edge of their ropes typically, and they're looking for therapists fitness slash, heart coach and things
Mhm.
like that? Or are they, I mean, I'm just curious where they are on their, on the spectrum of their journey, that what that all
Yeah, it
like.
kind of depends. Sometimes they walk in the door and they're quote unquote just looking to lose weight,
Cool.
right? Like they have
They need an accountability partner.
They need an accountability partner and they walk in wanting to lose weight. And I start by saying, if you are here for a meal plan, you're in the wrong place, because that is not what I do.
Right.
Because you could find a meal plan anywhere on the internet. And if this was about the food, you would have already done this. This is about your relationship with the food and your relationship with yourself. And where I start with all of my clients is exactly the same place, which is having them kind of log and track and what they're taking in terms of nutrition and their activity, so I can get a genuine sense of what that looks like. And then we figure out where we want to go. That helps me understand what their challenges are. What are the foods that they're taking in? How often are they eating? All that kind of stuff.
So does childhood trauma come up through that?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah,
because
oh, my mom used to do this and my dad did this, or my grandmother, because we lived with generational family, whatever.
Yeah. So there's always things that kind of come up simply in that logging and tracking. People will say, I don't want to because of fill in the blank, or this is what I learned about myself just in that 1 week of doing that. And so that gives us something to go on. So the path that I step onto with each person is their own, and I will walk it with them for as long as they want to walk, wherever they want to go. But that place that we start is always the same. That being said, through my nutrition practice over the last nearly 7 years, and my own personal growth practice, I developed a program completely separate from nutrition, because I saw more and more what people really needed was the mindset work and the personal development work and the empowerment work, which is really where my passion lies. Like the thing that brings them in the door is the food, right? Now. But that's my jam, as the saying goes. And so, that's my thing.
I freaking love this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I knew you would.
You need a third co-host. You just let me know.
There you go.
Oh man, 2 generators against a manifester. Whew. Get shit done.
Yeah. It's. Have you heard of the nutrition Whole30? Have you heard of the Whole30? Okay.
Yeah.
So my friend created it with her
Melissa.
Melissa Hartwig. Yeah.
Okay.
So Melissa Urban, though, is how she goes by. And the one thing that I really, really appreciated about when it first came out, it was 2015 for me, where I sort of found it, and the psychology of food, right? That's what we're kind of talking about here. But and the Whole30 has kind of lost its way within the confines of people, like being trendy or whatnot. But the original way that Melissa wrote it was to read this book prior to embarking on it, because the most important part of, other than, leaving starch out, leaving certain foods out, and to wrap your head around another diet. Like, when no one survives or has success on diets, they never. It's about creating a lifestyle and finding what works for you. But the thing about the Whole30 that I really appreciated was that it was more about finding what intolerances you had towards certain foods and how they would kick into your body, whether you get bloat, break out, the wheat belly, the wheat stuff.
Yep.
And inflammation and all that sort of stuff. And so when I say this to some people and explain to them really what Whole30 was about, was not to be a freaking diet by any means. It was to eliminate some of the things that give most people, unfortunately, because of the way we farm and produce food these days, and It's not our grandparents, era of food, right? It's not those
Yeah.
farms anymore.
Yeah.
Everything is so hyper produced. Hold on one second. And I love the fact that you do it for 30 days. You're supposed to.
Yeah. You're supposed to only do it for 30
Yeah,
days.
I did it for 60, honestly, because I was feeling so good. I was actually nervous about bringing stuff back in because I just was feeling so amazing. I mean, my rosacea cleared up. And then when you come back and you like do a day of legumes, and then you go back on your whole 30 to give your body a break and see how it feels. And then you do another day of blah, blah, blah. And you kind of start to reintroduce things slowly. No one talks about that anymore as far as from whole 30, but that was the purpose of it. And I think, and the psychology behind all of that really helped me now up until to now. I mean, because
and like Whole 30, from my understanding, is really about self-discovery. It's really to understand how foods affect you, what your relationship is, what is your response when you think about eliminating these things. Like
That's
it's
right.
really
Comfort.
about
Yeah, like
a
if it's comfort,
self-discovery journey. River, you may speak now.
Oh my gosh, you two, you generators. Oh my gosh.
Who's
I can't even
interviewing
with you
who
two.
here?
I'm like over here raising my hand like the kid in the classroom with you two.
I know, it's
tap in.
We love
Well,
it.
no, I was just thinking, you're talking about, the whole 30 and elimination, all of that. But really what it comes down to for a lot of people is that there's emotions that need to be eliminated. There's baggage, there's childhood trauma, there's wounds that are just begging to be addressed. And for so many people, that manifests as physical problems, that manifests as food relationship, as health, because our body is begging for us to deal with those things because it stores in our body, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so, you as a coach, you're not working with people just to like on their food. You're helping them eliminate the emotional side of things to say what needs to be cleared out to get you to where you need to be to feel your best self.
Yeah.
And so then like circling back to like your process, as you were going through this process with your divorce and changing your career, what things were you finding yourself eliminating the most to kind of push yourself forward?
Ooh, good question.
Manifesting in the house.
What did I eliminate?
I adore you.
Wow. I haven't thought about that.
You can journal on it later. Too,
I think I might. I mean, there was things that were eliminated without my consent, if that makes sense. Like there was things that were kind of cleared out a lot. I eliminated concern about what other people thought. I eliminated those kinds of things and really paid attention to my body and how I was feeling. I mean, ultimately, later down the road, there was a health diagnosis for myself, which caused me some dietary elimination, which allowed me to learn even more about myself. But when I think about that time when I was really shifting and changing so many things, what I really eliminated was the noise from other people and their opinions and what they thought. And I just really stood in what I knew to be true for me.
The stillness, right? What is that Japanese term for stillness? I can't remember right now. I'll have to.
I have no idea.
It's really a cool practice, but I mean, River, you kind of did that last night.
I mean, I shared about it on my Instagram, yesterday for myself, like a big practice I have for myself is anytime I start feeling emotionally cluttered, I start feeling like I'm intaking a lot from other people energetically or opinions and information, and I'm having a hard time with my clarity, I head to nature. Like, I'm like, see you society, see you town. Like I'm headed out. I'm going somewhere where there's no reception, and I'm going to spend a couple of hours meditating and journaling. And that's what I did last night, because when I found in my own process, and I'm sure Angie, you found this too, like when you get still within yourself and listen to yourself, that is where everything you need and you need to work through comes up. And that is where all the clarity comes from.
So
Yeah, I run.
so
I go for a run.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you go for a run. I mean,
Mhm.
so it's called Shinrin Yoku, and it's seeking stillness in nature. And it says here, using the Japanese concept of nature therapy for mental clarity.
Boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Love it.
Shinrin Yoku. So awesome. They literally translates to forest bathing, which is one of my
Ooh,
my-
Oh, we
forest
talk about
bathing.
forest
That's
bathing a
my
lot
jam.
in functional nutrition and stuff.
Wait,
Yeah.
that's an actual term. Forest
Oh,
bathing.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I have a book
Yeah.
on it.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've just been doing it.
You do. You naturally have been bathing.
That's
it.
perfect. You don't have to know it's a thing for anybody else for it to be a thing for you.
Exactly. Like, I think so.
Mhm.
And that brings me to my next question for you, Angie. So, like, as you're working with clients, do you find that people seem to have common tools that work for them, or does everyone like have a unique tool that works best for them that they discover in the process?
Everyone thinks they should, which is one of my least favorite words. Thinks
We
they
don't shit on ourselves.
We should all over ourselves. Everyone thinks that they should be doing something that someone else is doing. They see this is working for this person, this is working for that person. They haven't found their thing yet. They've tried whatever it is, or they think that there is some magical diet or some protocol or whatever that should be working for them, and they can't seem to make it work. And so what I seek to do is help them discover and understand what those things are about themselves. Like, I can't tell you how many people, women in their 30s, 40s, 50s are typically who I work with. Everyone in my Be Your Own Kind of Badass group right now is in their 40s and 50s. And they're like, I need a hobby. I don't know, if I'm not working and I'm not parenting, I don't know what to do with myself. And I am like, well, what things interest you? And they're, give me the, I don't know. And I will ask them, what did you like to do when you were 10? What were the things that you liked to do when you were 10? And, a woman I was talking to last week said, oh my gosh, my sister and I would just run around in the woods like crazy people. And I said, when was the last time you went for a hike? Have you ever thought about going for a hike? And she's like, that's a really good idea. Like, she just has forgotten who she is, So I seek to discover.
Tell us about the badass group.
My Be Your Own Kind of Badass group is, I don't want to over dramatize it because that's my sister's role, but she'll listen to this and she'll think that was funny.
I can already hear her laughing.
It is my life's work, if I'm being really, really honest. I have done a lot of things in my life.
I get that.
I have done a lot of things in my life that people qualify as badass. I've run marathons. I ride my bike up mountains. Like, when I was in high school, I was the girl that was on the dance team and in the marching band at the same time. Like, I did things that weren't normal, but it made complete sense to me. And that is my
doing it.
Because it was just what made sense. Like,
it's joyful.
Totally. And so I, over time, have seen how much other women have lost that part of themselves, their badassness. And your badassness is not my badassness, right?
Like, you don't need
it
in the first place.
Because they give it away to other people. They take on the role of mother. They take on the role of wife. They take on the role of employee. They take on all these other roles and push themselves to the side and forget who they are and how they like to act and what it is that they like to do, because they've given away all these parts of themselves. So in taking my power back and understanding myself more fully, I noticed some things that were beneficial in that transformation, and I put them together in an 8-week group coaching program. It still is very much individualized through the process. It's all virtual.
Okay, good.
Um,
We'll put the information in the notes. For
yeah,
sure.
it's all virtual. I run it a couple of times a year. I have a couple of people that have come into another program that I developed, which is called Badass 365, which we work together for 365 days.
Whoa.
And you have a lot of access to me to support you in whatever capacity that looks like. And where you want to go, where you're feeling stuck, whatever I can do to support that, I do. And I completely customize a program to them. It can include nutrition, it can include fitness, it can include a lot of mindset work, it can include talking you off the edge if you are, whatever. Like, it really is very personal and very powerful. I have 4 women that I'm working with right now in that capacity, and it's just my very favorite thing in all of the land.
What seems
And I will say, as someone who is also currently working with Angie, you are so good at making people feel seen and heard in those moments. I just want to tell you that, because Angie and I
Thank
go
you.
for a walk every week. Well, when we're not traveling or doing other things, but we go for a walk, and you're so good at helping, holding up a mirror for people to see what it is that they're kind of missing from the bigger picture, which is where people get so mired down, right? Like, they have all the little pieces, but they just need someone to hold up a mirror and say, have you thought about this? Have you discovered or explored this? What about trying this? Like, those nudges.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for saying that.
So, so what are any trending themes right now amongst the core women that you work with? Like, what's heavy on hearts these days?
The letting go that selfish is bad. It's okay to be selfish. It's okay.
But this is what we talk about sometimes amongst mom friends, right? Like, is it really selfish?
Exactly. It's what I have shifted and helped them to understand is that you have to be self-centered. You have to put yourself,
not self-centered, egotistical.
Yes.
Selfish. It's self-centered, meaning
if you think of your life as a wheel, right? Like, if you think of a wagon wheel, we're talking like Oregon Trail kind of wagon wheel, right? Yeah. And you are the middle. You are the center of that wheel. And all the spokes that go out from that wheel are the things that you do to support yourself. Yeah. Moving your body outside in nature, eating well, drinking enough water, making sure you're getting enough sleep, whatever your de-stress practices look like. The more spokes you have in that wheel, the stronger the support for all the other stuff rotating outside, all the other things that you have to manage every day, the kids, the job, the family obligations, the whatever, all the things on the outside of that wheel are going to function and roll more smoothly, the more spokes and the more that you support the thing that is in the center, which is you.
Mm-hmm. So do you teach that to your kids, like naturally, or like when you were coming out of the divorce and you were into more of your power? Did your relationship with the kids change in that moment as well?
Absolutely. Yes. Helping my kids to trust themselves and to do what they know is right and true for them, no matter what anyone else thinks.
Were they okay during the divorce? How did they handle it all?
I think okay is a relative term. Like, when I was very intentional with my words when we sat down and had this conversation with them. And I said to them, it is my goal for you that you will be able to say that you came from 2 loving homes instead of just 1. And so I have been very fortunate that even though, divorce is emotional and it's tumultuous and there's pain and there's, all of that stuff. He and I have
no matter who pulled the Band-Aid, no matter
who pulled the Band-Aid, right? Yeah. Like, it was still painful for me, even though it was my idea. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
It was all of our ideas here.
Yeah, it was, even though I wanted it and I was the one that instigated it, it still hurt me because I knew that this was going to change the trajectory of their lives forever. And
why didn't
I
you think
knew
it was selfish. What was that mindset at that moment where you're like, you were
because
self-centered in the moment?
Because I knew if either one of my kids were feeling what I was feeling, I would want them to make the same decision.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
So you want to model what?
Yes, I wanted them to know if ever you are in a place that you know is no longer right for you, you have the power and ability to change it. You have the power and ability to get out of it.
Their highest
It's
good.
such a powerful lesson for our kids to learn. I mean, for me, I watched my parents stay married miserably for 25 years, and no one was teaching me that it's okay to say no to the things that no longer serve you. The message was, you stick with it no matter what, because that's the right thing to do. And so I love that you were able to show your kids that, because what an empowering thing for our children to know.
Giving.
Yeah. And it still happens to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still happens to this day. My children have, throughout their life, since their dad and I separated, had to make difficult decisions, made decisions that I wouldn't have made for them, but they knew was right for them. And I supported it. I have always joked. Somebody asked me once, how would you define your parenting style? And I was like, do you think of like a bowling alley? Like, my children are the bowling ball and they're living their life going down the alley. And I'm like the bumpers on the side.
Yeah.
I'm the bumpers on the side going, no, back over that way. You're good. Keep going. Everything's fine. Nope. Back over that way. Like, so I am the structure on the outside and they are, flexibly moving down.
Is your ex happy? Do you think he's happier now? Did he notice? Have you had those conversations where he didn't even know he was unhappy at the time, or?
At this very moment, he's not particularly happy, but in the last 7 years, yes, like, we were just no longer good for each other. And we still, the thing that we always did very, very well together was parent. The thing we were always very, very good at is family. And we still get to do that. We still get to be their parents and support them unconditionally and love them unconditionally, even though I didn't.
Because that's also because of what you did, because you said, I want to be intentional about how we family, how we do this together going forward. Like, I have, like, you're still part of my family. Like, you're still my family.
Yes, he is. But and the reality is, I don't trust him with me, but I trust him with my kids. I know I have always seen his heart as a parent, and I trust him implicitly with our children. I just don't trust him with me. And so
cool. I mean,
we have been able to continue to be a family. Like, we literally had Christmas dinner together, all of us last year, and we will do it again this year. We sit together. We'll all sit together when we go to the soccer game in an hour. Like,
who benefits?
My kids.
Exactly.
My kids have said, thank you. Thank you for continuing to be able to be friends with Dad. We really appreciate it. We see it. We've also had to have a difficult conversation because they have voiced, like, how can you guys get along so well now?
Yeah.
But you couldn't be married. And I'm like, we get along now because we're not trying to be married.
That's right.
Like, that's why we're not trying to have an intimate, safe relationship with one another. We can functionally have a conversation and sit on the side of a soccer field, or, like, throw a joint graduation party for our daughter when she graduated from high school. Like, we can do those things because we don't have to have a relationship with one another outside.
I love this, because this is the grouping I'm in right now, which is really cool. We're, a year and a couple of months, and Carrie texted me yesterday with some pictures, like Facebook memories of Kaden, like when she was little, and it was so freaking cute. And then she said, we may not have done it right together, but we did one thing right, and that's we did her right. Like,
That's exactly how I feel.
and it
Mhm.
was so like, I'll text her probably in the next day or so, because it actually got me like, it was so lovely to get that text and know like where we came, but we've always been on the same exact page when it came to her, and
Yep.
still do. And I mean, we were texting this morning, and she was making me laugh, because
Mhm.
something the kid was doing, it's
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
so amazing in that
Mhm.
respect. And we
Yeah.
celebrated her birthday a few, like last week, all together. Like my stepmom
Yeah.
came.
We do the same thing.
Yeah, the other grandma was in town, and
Mhm.
so it's good. It was all of us and Kaden benefits. She's
Yeah,
a
like
runner.
I over and over, like from the day that I made the decision that like I cannot be married to you anymore, what do I want my kids to say about this later? Right? Like, what do I want them to be able to say about how he and I handled all of this to their kids? Like, yes, we aren't married anymore, but we are still a family.
So to happier stuff, like there's hope, because you said
There is hope.
divorce is hope, and in your life,
Mhm.
what were some of the ebbs and flows for you before you met this particular man that gives you rosy cheeks, even
He's
thinking
fantastic.
about him right now? Like, you're literally getting rosy. Look at her smile. Like,
And
this is beautiful.
it came into my life. He came into my life very, like, kind of simultaneously. As I was leaving my marriage, he came into my life. And yet I knew I was not looking for a relationship, not even a little bit. Neither was he. Neither one of us were in the space to be in a relationship. And yet there was a draw, there was a pull toward one another. And so we said, all right, we're just going to trust this. We're just going to see where this goes. And we never put any pressure on one another. There was zero expectation.
No
We're just going
attachment to it.
No attachment.
Imagine
Whatever it
that.
turns out to be is whatever it turns out to be. At the time, he didn't live here. We lived on opposite sides of the state. So that was really helpful, that when I was not in mom mode, when I didn't have my kids, I could put more attention toward this relationship. And when I was in mom mode, relationship was on the back burner.
Or you can have a day to yourself or
Oh,
whatever.
100%. Yeah. And because he didn't live here, we were very intentional with our time. When we saw each other, it was like just us and doing our thing. And after about a year and a half, we realized that, okay, this is not a rebound. Like, this is actually, this
something
is working.
Really special.
This is something really, and what I have said many times about my relationship with him is that it showed me not what a relationship should be, but what a relationship could be. He just provides this safe space for me to be me. And it's fantastic. And I do the same for him. That doesn't mean it's not without challenge. That doesn't mean that it's not without like disagreement. And, we are still human beings. But there is a massive mutual trust and respect for one another. After a year and a half, he moved here. He's been here for the past 5.5 years. We got married 2 years ago. And yeah, we just keep trusting it, and
I like it.
It keeps going.
It's interesting because there's a theme in your life I'm seeing, and it's the word intentional. And I think that when we're in our head and we're spinning out, it's hard to remember to be intentional. And I think if we can start the day off with, like, River, loves meditation. And a lot of my friends all, like, we wake up and we're very intentional to the day. And I think when people are feeling stuck, feeling anxious, and they've just sort of disassociated from what's going on around them, I think just reminding yourself to be intentional isn't like a dig. It's sort of this general, it's almost like when you say, I'm going to give myself a timeout. Like the
Mhm.
timeout is like relaxing, but like the word intentional for me has a similar feeling in that matter. And I think when you say to yourself, I think I'm going to be intentional today, it kind of shifts you immediate. Like it's one of those really interesting words that are like, I'm going to be intentional. And you don't just go off ADHDing everywhere. You're like, I'm going to be intentional in this.
Unless you're me.
So wait,
And then you intentionally write a list of things that you do intentionally do, and you have the intention of following it, and then you unintentionally get sidetracked from your intentions.
So really what you needed is a dose of Adderall at that point.
I know, I was like, medication.
Medication and maybe a personal assistant.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you do need someone following you around.
I do.
I can't even imagine what you would manifest the shit out of if you literally just had someone right behind you and you're like, habba, and the idea just gets made.
Yeah. Try being ADHD, living with an ADHD child. Like our cupboards are never closed and our laundry's everywhere.
Oh my God. That makes
My sister's cupboards are never closed either, but that is her husband's fault.
so and I think like what I would love to have you share like in these last few minutes or whatever that we have here, but is to really I like things in threes. I love the number 3. And I think things in threes feels very rounded to me in a sense, but it, what are some really cool tips that you can pull from your own journey or things that resonate with, a handful of your clients, like that you could tell our listeners today that maybe, and not the typical meditation, blah, blah, like some, some other cool opportunities that I might not even be thinking about, but to allow them to be intentional or to slow down or that they want to find their power,
So one of the activities that I have my Be Your Own Kind of Badass group do very early on in our time together is write out a list of 3 to 10 things that bring you energy.
Oh, I like that.
Things that bring energy to your life. Is it going outside for a walk for 10 minutes? Is it talking to your best friend? Is it standing on your head? Like, I don't know, whatever those things are for you, making a list of those things and spending 10 minutes every day doing one
I like
of
that you
those
call
things.
I like that you call it energy instead of joy. Like, the go-to with lists is like, what are the things that bring you joy? Because I think it might be easier for people to understand what makes them, like, helps them reframe and reshift and turn about from like the negativity, all the things they're feeling. Because a lot of people are more connected with associating, like understanding that they have a negative feeling and then something happens and they do something and it creates a positive feeling. Because not everyone understands what makes them feel joyful.
Yes,
because they're so disconnected.
exactly.
So I love
I
that
think a lot of
energy
people,
instead of joy.
Totally. And I think a lot of people associate joy with it costs money because they're thinking of things that actually make them happy is like jumping on a plane, having a tank of gas, going somewhere, getting a hotel, like all those things. So I love the reframe. I agree with you, but I think the reason why joy doesn't feel aligned in this moment is because everybody has a whole, sparking joy is one thing. Like when you're, Maria Kondoing your
right. Yeah.
And you're literally taking little functions or a t-shirt. That's different. Like, ooh, that feels good to me. That's sentimental.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, for the true mind shift, which is what we're talking about really here. And I like where
make a list of things that bring you energy and do one of those things every single day for 10 minutes. First thing in the morning, go outside and get fresh air on your face. First thing. It's going to help your circadian rhythm. It's going to help set off a positive hormonal cascade in your body. Like, get fresh air on your face first thing in the morning. And there is a massive impact on our health when it comes to community and finding community and having community. And so if you are struggling for community, I know exactly what that feels like. First of all, send me a message on Instagram. I'll be happy to be your community. Angie.brown.harris. That's me. But leaning into whatever community you have in your world. And if that is a challenge for you, I took a deep breath because I know the fear that comes with leaning into asking, like finding a community, going, I am lonely and I need people, and finding ways to find that community, because leaning into that may mean rejection at first, may mean like, whoop, that wasn't right for me. That may mean like that group
like
wasn't
you said,
ready for me.
Adult friendships can be hard sometimes.
Adult friendships are really, really hard.
And it requires being seen. And we're all so terrified of being seen.
Yep. So, find ways to bring yourself energy, get fresh air on your face first thing in the morning, and lean into a community of people.
I love that. I mean, I think that's the perfect way to end this amazing hour. It
has been an honor to step into this space with you two. And I don't say that lightly. My jaw fell open when River asked me to do this. And I am just truly grateful for the opportunity to speak both to the two of you and whoever happens to listen to this. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
We're so happy to have you here. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you.
Shifts today because of our conversation, then my day is made.
Preach. 100%. Me too. Same.
I very much appreciate you. So River, this was awesome.
Yes,
Thank
Michele,
you guys.
was amazing.
Okay, bye guys.